Hey, this is Azriel Lawless, and once again, you have fallen straight into Vella and found yourself another Lawless Interview. And today, I'm here with my friend, Kendra Griffin, who writes a couple, three now, don't you?
Yeah, I have three out.
Okay, who writes three different Vella flows. Say hi after I've already asked you a question.
Hi, it's great to be here. And I love how you open these with falling into Vella. I watched a few recently to get the feel for it. And
I try to say it at all of them. I don't know why.
It.
It's like a good luck thing.
I like it.
Oh, I'm glad. So how are you doing today?
I am okay. I just posted on Facebook that I was super nervous about interviewing, and that I think it's funny that I thought, what the heck am I going to talk about all this time? How am I possibly interesting enough to talk and be interviewed? And then it's funny because that's what writers do. We share the inside of our heads, and we'll do that, but then we're scared to actually meet anybody. So in the middle of the night, I put more blue in my hair and also tried to cut layers from a tutorial YouTube video. That part was a fail, but that's how I managed my stress. Yeah.
Well, I love the hair though. That's really,
thanks.
That is really
it's new. I'm going to quit my job soon, and I don't care if I have blue hair. It's like a symbol to me that I'm going to do it.
That's exciting. That is very exciting. So I will have you tell me about that soon, but I'm going to open with the same question I ask every single so-and-so on the other side of this Zoom meeting. Okay. And that is, when did you get started writing? When did you first get started writing? And let me define this. I don't mean with crayons. I mean, when you first wrote your first cohesive story. And for some people that has been grade school.
Yeah, of course I wrote a few back then, and I loved doing that. I think in college, I took a few creative writing courses. I switched majors a few times, but the creative writing courses were what made me happy. I don't think they were great. They weren't bad, but I fell in love with the idea of meeting my characters. I really, it was really piecemeal. Just once in a while, I wrote poetry, I wrote songs. I used to sing, I'm also a singer-songwriter, but I don't really like performing, and I don't do that much. But when I was younger and I lived in New York City, I did that more, and my friends supported my work. And I will tell you that I taught a class on Harry Potter at the college about 10 years ago. And all politics with Rowling aside, the class was amazing. The students who showed up were wonderful, and they loved the work, and I saw how deeply changed they were by this series. And I wanted to write something that affected people and made, especially young adults, have courage and want to do good things in the world and like themselves and find camaraderie. And I also will admit I have ADD, and I hadn't had that diagnosed at the time, but I know that I have attention issues and memory issues. And I've always carried a lot of shame about that. Like, oh, I don't have follow through. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't find my socks. Where are my glasses? Oh, I'm wearing them. I don't know. So I sat down and I thought, I've always thought I wanted to be an author. And I've always told myself that would be my end goal, that I'd write a book, but I'm scared I can't do it. And I don't want to be scared anymore. So maybe I'll write what I love, which is young adult. It's shorter. The chapters are shorter. The content is a little lighter usually. And I just started saying, what would I want to write? What would I want to read? And I came up with this world, and I started fleshing it out. And my first book, I have not put out there yet. I'm just starting to revise it now. It needed a lot of work, but I created this world, and I've written 5 or 6 books in that world since, none of which are on Vella. And I don't know, it was just a confidence thing. I had to believe that it mattered if I did it, and I had to believe that I could do it. And then I started writing, and I've never stopped writing since then. It's just my very favorite thing to do.
When was that? What year was that? Can you tell me?
That was probably 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Wonderful. And yeah, my first book was really wordy, but that's how you learn. You learn by writing.
Well, so almost 10 years of experience now.
Yeah.
In publishing your own books and whatnot. Now, okay, so tell me, what were those first books? What were the names of them?
Yes, so I still haven't fully titled that very first one, but I created this world, and so this is going to be hopefully interesting. This was all pre-COVID. I created this world that was set about roughly 15 years in the future from, say, now. And 10 or so years after a worldwide plague, had kind of sent 3 major waves through society of I called it the pox. And so I wrote about the foster kids. I wrote about the kids left behind. And so I imagined that the world wasn't totally decimated, but like maybe significantly changed as it has been with COVID. And there were a lot of foster kids, and I wrote about their plights and how they stayed together. And so I have 5 or 6 books in that series of different sets of foster kids, and the whole kind of understanding of how the pox, you know, those who are already most marginalized now inevitably become more marginalized when something else awful happens. And so I was writing about those kids, and I wrote those books. I wrote several of them. And by the 3rd or 4th, I thought, this is pretty good. I'm getting there. I really like this book. I think this 4th one, I think I'm ready to market this. I think it's good enough. But it ended on a cliffhanger, which I knew wasn't great for a new writer because I was still going the traditional route. And I knew that it would be hard to get an agent to publish a book that ended on a cliffhanger. Anyway, I went to this conference. I went to this writing conference, and I was told, oh, we're not picking up dystopian right now. So there's a glut. This is 5 years ago. And then I went to another conference, and the same thing was said to me. And I remember, like, it felt like my stomach fell out of my body. Like, I've done all this work and nobody's going to pick these up. And I walked around the building a few times. I can feel the stress now. I walked around the building a few times, and I said, you know,
coming up in you.
It was really a moment of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be completely rejected. And what does this work for? And then I had to think, like, I love writing. I'll write something else marketable. And I wrote a different story that's on the side that was more kind of contemporary YA. But meanwhile, then COVID hit, and I thought, I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to publish this now, because every, you know, Joe Schmo is going to write this story, and I've already got them written, and I'm going to have to learn to self-publish. And I was really scared to do that too, because I'm not good with zeros and ones, but I learned. And so I put 2 out in that series. The 2 I thought were the most complete and the best written, and I have more to do. But then I also found Vella. So I started serials on Vella.
So you got over your fear.
I got over my fear.
In 2013 or so, so you wrote those in 2013-ish. And then,
well, 2013 to 2018, really, over that span. And then I was ready to market them.
Okay. So then about 2018, you decide, you know, you're going to do that. Then you go to a writer's conference. My God,
yes.
I hope writers' conferences aren't as bad as they used to be. It was really an exercise in feeling horrible about yourself to go to a writer's conference.
Okay.
Because all they would do was tell you the same old shtick, the old narrow way, the eye of the needle way, which is old trad pub. And they were still pushing traditional publishing back when we started writing these things. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Back in 2013, they were still pushing traditional publishing. I can remember being at a writer's conference, and I've probably said this in a couple of different interviews, but it's very impactful for me. And the year was 2011. And I was there, and at the same time, as a friend of mine was there who had decided that she wanted to be a writer. And I had been writing for a while. I had a couple of serious books written, and I just couldn't get anybody to pick them up. You know, never mind the fact that they're 100, one of them's 500-page novel, and the other one is like a 350, 400-page novel. You're trying to break in as a first time published writer. Come on, you're not going to. But I still had some experience, and I was starting to get a little jaded. And they were like that. They were just talking about the same old shit, you know. Yeah. 2011, it was still send in your query letters to an agent, see if you can get an agent. The agents are more successful than in querying editors for you, and then go get, and then they'll go get an editor, and then, you know, blah, blah, bullshit. And this friend of mine, she stands up and she goes, no, I think I'm just going to go do my own thing, you know. And she gathered up her shit and she left. Girl, she went out there and she replaced a very good corporate salary in under a year, writing on Kindle, doing her own thing, you know. And she'll tell you to this day, the books had errors in them. They had typos up the yin, because it wasn't a thing. I mean, nobody was doing it, and she couldn't, you know, she needed to get it done. And so there you go. but and she went broadband, so she sold out on, remember Nook? Yep. She sold out on there. And I know that I don't ever mention her name, and I think she wouldn't mind if I told this one little story, but she came in and one night and looked at her earnings on Nook for the day, and she thought it was $80, but it was $8,000.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's the dream, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but she lived the dream, and she,
Yep.
having believed in herself enough to get up and call bullshit,
Yep.
Basically carved herself out a really nice life as a writer. Yeah. And she's got an admirable catalog now. She's got about 60 books out on KU right now. And she found her audience through just writing, and she did paranormal romance. Paranormal romance has been hot for years now.
Yeah. Right.
And so screw these people, seriously. All they TradPub does is make you feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with everything you said, and I had that experience. I will say I had a great time at the writing conferences, but that's also partly because I am a professor and I started teaching creative writing. And so my PD funds covered them. I could not have afforded them on my own, and not even on my, professor public school salary. So yeah. I got to go to these great conferences that were above my pay grade. And I learned so much about the industry, and I enjoyed them for that reason, probably because there was no stress. And I just learned a lot. But I will agree that it was repeatedly daunting, right? So I was chasing this dream of how do I query and how do I get in here? And, the odds are so slim. It's something like 1 out of 1,000 queries that comes through that an agent might take. And I'm not saying it doesn't have anything to do with the quality of your work, but it doesn't have a lot to do with the quality, because it has to be quality, but it also has to ring all these other bells that just feel so arbitrary. And I decided I wanted to stop chasing that. And it was about agency to me. It was about believing in myself. And I teach creative writing at the college, and it helped me with that too, because now I can teach students more realistically as we move to a new publishing model anyway, because, trad publishing is becoming a dinosaur. So yeah, I can tell my students, this is how we do it. These are ways you can market yourself. Oh, I mean, they were writing on Wattpad 6 years ago, and I was like, what's this? Oh, you're doing Wattpad. Well, that's really cool. And, so it changed me, and it was about not waiting for my life to happen to me. I'm not saying that I would mind being traditionally published also when I have one book that's a little more literary. And I think agents themselves do work really hard. They have to, they want you to succeed, but I didn't want someone else to choose me. I didn't want to wait anymore for things beyond my control. I can control how well I write by working hard and revising and practicing my craft and putting my butt in, the seat time in the chair. I can't control being chosen. So I just wanted to eliminate that element from my life, like metaphorically in so many ways. I want to invest in myself. And it was really scary for me because I'm not good at tech, but I'm really proud of the books I put out, and they have good reviews. I'm not making a ton of money off them. I don't have much time to market. I'm so busy working full time and doing this, but they have really good reviews, and I'm going to keep writing in this series. I'm going to build and build and build. And
it has been all this time we've been talking. I'm going to stop you because you still haven't told me the name of a single one.
I'm sorry. I'm not good at marketing. Okay. So it's the Pox series. The first book I put out was called The Pox Ward. It's about 16-year-old Pablo Napolitano, and he is in a hospital that is exploiting the Pox orphans for their orphans in a really for their organs in a really sinister way. Ew. And the next book I put out was a different set of characters. It's actually after the Pox comes back. So imagining like a really bad fourth wave or something 10 years later. That was a little out there. And I just thought, what could be more fun to write than like a zombie story, but in my world on the Appalachian Trail, because I love the Appalachian Trail. I didn't want to make them full on zombies because I wasn't going to go full on paranormal in this series. It's still speculative, of course. So I made it that it turned people feral, and they were still much alive, but feral. And it is my favorite novel. And I will tell you, to write, and I will say I get really excited about it because the main secondary character is so deeply based on my brother, and I adored him, and he passed not long after I started writing novels. And I get to visit with him when I write this book. And so Huck, the secondary character of Apocalypse Thoughts, that's the name of it. I love the main character, Kella, but I get to spend time with Huck, and there will be many sequels specifically about that sibling pair because I just want to spend more time with him. He makes me smile. He, like my brother, is sort of undefinably on the spectrum. It was never fully diagnosed because he refused to have that done. And I love him so much. He's so close to my heart. And that's why I love writing. I get to spend time with these characters. This is why I want to quit my job and write full time. I just want to do it all the time.
And that's very exciting. I know from you being in a Vella call yesterday, just between us writers, that you are about to take that big leap. So that is,
yeah, I am
awesome.
I don't think my dad is probably going to watch this interview, so I think it's safe to say it here, and I'm allowed to quit when I want. But you know, I've been trying to say it more out loud to people, not like officially at work yet, but say it more out loud because I gotta like social pressure. I have to say it enough so that now I can't turn back. Because I've been trying to get myself to do this for a few years, but to give up para and a tenure track job when I'm on my own and I've always been kind of solo, it's very scary to me. And I tell people, I know it doesn't seem like a lot to quit my job. It doesn't seem like a ton to some people, but to me, this job, this institution in a sense, like replaces my parents. It's like having a roof above my head emotionally and mentally. And I don't fit in an institution. I'm like Yossarian from Catch 22. I hate bureaucracy. So it was never going to work. But it is the hardest thing I've had to do voluntarily. You know, I've had to do other hard things that I had no control over, but quitting this job is the hardest thing that I am choosing to do. And I know it's right for me. It's just flipping scary as hell.
And you're tenured. You're tenured.
Yeah. It's the dream, right? But I don't have enough time to write. I'm a comp teacher, so I'm always grading. And it's just time, you know, sometimes you shift and you realize emotionally, creatively, I'm ready for the next thing and I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be super scary, but you know, so I feel like I'm jumping off a cliff. I literally feel like I'm like, okay, I'm about to jump. Okay, but now I'm almost, okay, but I'm holding on to the sapling sticking out of the side of the cliff because I'm really scared to let go. Like I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen.
At some point, we're going to talk right now about your Vellas because it's so fascinating. Okay. I love hearing about your writing. I love the fact that you are a tenured professor and you are on the cusp of your writing career. And I just know that you're going to do so well. I know this so solidly. Now,
thank you.
Because
I feel like I'm going to get back what I need. I feel like I'm not going to have to look back and say I was scared, and it's going to be an experience, and I'm going to give back to other writers and other readers. I just have to define well as like all of those things are doing well. And I can't control money. All I can control is like, am I happy? Am I doing my art? Like, you know, all artists face these choices, really.
Right.
Okay, I'll tell you about my Vellas.
All right. So you had been in EPUB since about 2018. You'd published some of your books. Okay. And then, so you're on the KDP train at that point.
You're right.
So I'm guessing that's where you heard about Vella, or did you hear about it from somebody else? Okay.
I heard about it from there and I thought, I really want to do that. And my brain was like, oh, there's 8,000 things I want to do. And I want to write every story in the world, but I want to get in on Vella, but I don't know that I have time. And then I will say, so my good friend, Nichelle Seeley, who writes the Sidekick series and Leviathan, she started it a few months before I did. And, you know, she was enjoying it and just, I was like, okay, I got to get there. So she kind of helped me over that hump where I kind of helped her a little bit over getting her first KDP book out. And so we both tried different things first and reported back and troubleshot. So I jumped on, I think in early November, and so the second book I ever wrote was a separate series, not for YA. And that's what I put out, A People's History of Magic. And it is a reference to A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. So I'm revealing some of my politics, I guess. I think people should generally be treated well. That's sort of my political platform. And so that book, you know, I knew it needed a lot of revision. And I just thought, this is fun and it's for adults and it's kind of ridiculous and funny. So maybe this will work well for Vella. And I hadn't really wanted to get into my other YA series because I wasn't quite sure how I would cross market yet, although I get it more now. So I just started, I had written the book, so I'm revising each episode as I go, but I'm a much better writer than I was when I wrote that. 7 or 8 years ago, I think.
Okay.
Because I've just, you learn to write by writing. So
yes, you do. And
I
so
started putting that out, and go ahead.
A People's History of Magic.
A People's History of Magic. Yep.
Okay.
I know I'm so bad at saying titles and marketing myself. And I didn't
say it at least 3 times in any interview. I'll get you learned up.
History of Magic.
Yes. I'll train you up.
So this series makes me so happy. And I got the idea because I'm a community college teacher. So I imagine this 42-year-old guy going back to change his life and having to take those sucky comp classes again because you time out. But he's really literate. He's super well read, but he's got to take the class again, and he wants to become a history teacher. And he started working construction. But what I imagine is he walks into his comp class, but the professor is there not to teach comp, but to teach magic in the form of metaquantum physics, because he has gotten a grant in another dimension to come to Earth and teach at a satellite campus and see how, if Earthlings can learn magic. It looks like magic to us. They're using this kind of weird metaquantum physics to do seemingly magical things like travel through time or conjure an item. So Dempsey is kind of like the stage term straight man, where he's like, what is this? And then everything else around him is just like pandemonium as he's experiencing this classroom. And what was so fun for me is because I thought, it's not Hogwarts. Like if somebody tried to teach us regular people magic, we wouldn't just be like, oh, we'll just accept it. We'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? And so some of the students are like, I have to learn comp because I need a job. Can I magic my ankle bracelet off? I just tried to think of I love my community college students. They're changing their lives. They're amazing people. They're overcoming addictions. They're going back to work. They're avoiding, they're getting a job so they can leave a domestic violence situation.
Wait. I think I may be talking about something. I have no idea what you're talking about. What is comp? I thought you were talking about composition.
Sorry, I teach English comp. And so I imagine that my character is going back to take a comp class, like a 101 English. And so my students are just amazing to me. They're changing their lives, but they're not going to just be like, oh, cool, magic. So it was humorous to me to write that scenario. But then once the characters took off, I just love writing Dempsey deal with his new skills. And of course, there's intergalactic parasites that we call cooties taking over the world. And he's got a band of misfit friends, and it turns out I'm funnier than I realized. So I didn't know people thought I was funny until I wrote on Vella. And that is pretty much a true story. Other than my best friend who always told me I was funny, I didn't really think so. Sorry, I talk so quickly sometimes.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I kept up with all of it.
Okay.
If I can keep up with it, anybody can. So,
okay.
So you put up A People's History of Magic sometime around November.
Yep.
I think I can remember you coming on, and you did really well, really fast, I think.
I think I was lucky enough to get one of those new features. And I knew Nichelle, and that helped. And I think it was the Facebook community really that got me any success. That's the best part of writing for Vella so far, is the community I found.
Yep.
For sure.
Now, does Nichelle Seeley work the same college you work at?
No, we've just been in the same writing critique group for years. And
okay.
So we help each other out with learning how things work and supporting each other as writers.
That's very cool. And who we're talking about, whoever's watching this, is Nichelle Seeley. She's another writer on Vella, and she does the flow, how to be a sidekick.
Yep.
Do you want to
who
be
wants
a
to be a
sidekick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's
and a couple others too. Yep.
That's the only one I was aware of for her, but this isn't her show. I got to get her on here too. Okay. So, because I know you have more Vellas to talk about. So we have History of Magic that went up in November. You said, aha. And probably shortly after the bonuses were announced, you said, aha, just like the rest of us did. And you're like, I can do this. So what was the next?
Yeah. I started putting out another story that it's called Jase, Dauphin, and the Island in the Swamp. Look, I said the title this time. It's a middle grade story. It's kind of a fun, spooky ghost adventure mystery for like 10 to 12-year-olds, kind of warm-hearted. He goes to his grandfather's island in Louisiana for the summer, and they explore some caves, and there's a ghost haunted house. And it was a lot of fun to write. As you can see, I have a diversity of genre that I write. I really want to try them all. I wrote that thinking of a friend. So I actually almost had that picked up by an agent, but that was at the beginning of COVID, and the agent had it to pitch at their editor and then was let go because everything was just like shutting down, and that editor has landed on her feet. But so I thought it's ready to go. It just needs a little polish. So I started putting that out. And what I like about it is that it's family friendly. And I mean that as in, it's not like all the adults suck. And in so many middle grade stories, it's just kind of like every adult sucks or is neglectful or isn't around or is just dopey and doesn't notice the kids are, I don't know, building a spaceship in the basement and, irrationally oblivious. And in this one, I like the adults are kind of likable and give good advice, even though it's mostly about the kids. That's done fine. It got featured once or twice, and right as Amazon was giving out more tokens, it got featured. And so I picked up a lot of followers on that. Sometimes you get featured and nothing happens, right? Other times you get featured and you just get lucky. So
I've never been featured, really, so you can just hit that.
I know, I don't mean to sound, it's like I somehow got into a vein where I have had that Jase Dauphin featured like 3 times. So, and then it got featured in the recently completed.
Say it
again. Jase Dauphin one. Jase Dauphin and the Island in the Swamp.
There we go. Jase Dauphin and the Island of the Swamp. That sounds really cute too. And it sounds like cute. You might have something there. I am learning from the longtime published authors out here that there is a summer reading season. So you need to be aware of that for your own marketing needs, man. That's
true.
Like it would be perfect. Because
I will think about that. I also teach children's lit. And so I had to learn about a lot about like kid readers. And there's this huge contingency of what they call boy reluctant readers who kind of can get overlooked in marketing. And for whatever reason, they're just not as, it's a cultural thing, but they're not as encouraged enough to read. So there's this market for writing books that will hook boy reluctant readers who are struggling readers. And that was my goal.
That's really cool. That is really cool because I can see that being, man, I can see that one getting some legs on it. Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. I have so many different genres that sometimes what I really probably need to do is dig in one area though and get a following. But
I don't know.
And then I have my other serial, Seriously Good Serials on writing. That's the one I just started.
Right. Or you could just like do whatever you want and write whatever you want, but have several pen names that you do it under so that you develop your audiences per pen name and per genre, and that you do it all at the same time. So there's nothing that says you cannot do it at the same time, but you cannot do it at the same time under the same name. No one will accept that. So
never sure how to do that. It's funny.
We'll talk.
Okay.
So that's a great YA story, but I know that you have also got a nonfiction flow going on out there. So is that your third one then?
Yep.
Okay.
So my third series, and I started a Facebook group, as you probably know, for vetted Vellas. I'm trying to help support the platform and get authors featured. That's most of what I read these days. I'll mention that later, but in conjunction with that, I also work as an editor, and I do part-time editing for a separate agency. And I just thought I'll just put out 3 free episodes and try to give new Vella authors like a gentle way of kind of knowing what I think would help them in their first pages. And so I called it Seriously Good Serials because I didn't want to put Kindle or Vella in the title. I realized at the last minute that was a no-no. So I didn't. And I mean, it's doing okay so far. I'm trying to be gentle, and I don't want to write anything that would make people feel scared or nervous. So like, I don't want them to question their ability. I just want them to kind of see what's working and what's not, and have faith that they could improve it through revision. Mm-hmm. But I kept going. I got some decent reads. So I wrote a few more of the, episode 4 and 5. I wasn't really thinking of it as a moneymaker so much as just, maybe this is a thing I do. And I just maybe constantly knew people will read the first story, but I don't know how far to go in that.
Well, you're going to have to start thinking of everything as moneymaker.
I know. As long as people read it, I will write it. I really like talking about craft and encouraging people. So that's what it is. it takes a lot of time though. And I would rather, it's not as much fun as writing my fiction, but I try to be creative and funny in it, to use funny examples. I never use real examples for writing. I make them up. So.
Okay. Good.
Thank you for asking. Seriously good serials. Look, I'm learning.
Seriously good serials. No, I want to know everything you have out there on Vella, how it's doing, and how you find Vella in general. I can tell it's energized you.
Yeah. It has, it's the interaction, I think. I love writing, period. So I would be excited. I mean, I get like this. I love talking about my writing. I'm really self-absorbed that way, but I love the process. And I love it for other people too. I love brainstorming story ideas and working through plot blocks. I can't wait till I'm just editing as in writing for a living instead of teaching. So I have found the experience to be, I mean, I will admit, sometimes I get scared. So I'm not really good on social media because I have trouble sometimes like comparing myself to others and being insecure. And so sometimes people will talk about their success, you know, the Facebook pages or on Vella, and I'll start to get panicked. Like, oh, I don't even do what I have 4 people on my mailing list, or I don't understand TikTok, or I haven't done, and I'll start doing that comparing thing. None of us really ever benefit from comparing ourselves to others. And I know that, but so there's been some fear and some anxiety in the process for me, which I would have had with any process anyway, to be honest.
I think that a lot of that comparing is a lot of the reason that I've been depressed lately. It's just, you know, and you're comparing yourself to others, and I'm so happy for everybody. I'm so happy.
Me too.
It doesn't take anything away from me being super happy for these people, but I look at them and I think, oh, I remember when they came on the platform. I was already there, and oh my God, they've already got 2 books out in print, you know, from Vella's, you know, so I like
what you said. It doesn't take anything away, but you can have both feelings at the same time. You can be excited for your friend and also panicked. Like it's just fear, right? Like to me, jealousy or envy, it's all just fear. It's, you know, it's natural. Like, oh, I'm scared I'm not going to be enough, or enough won't happen for me. So I feel jealous, but if you can still be happy for your friend at the same time, that you're kind of like, oh, what if nobody ever finds me? What if I never get promoted? What if I never get featured again? And what if I die alone in a gutter selling matchsticks, like Hans Christian Andersen? That is
questioning
literally
every
my worst
decision I ever made.
Worst case scenario. Yes. You have to try not to give into the panic, and to just remember, if you're doing what you love, you're on your path, right? We can't control external success.
I've said before,
we can like what we do.
I study Russian language, and I've said before that English is so inadequate in so many ways for expressing things. And interestingly, the Russian language happens to be the language on the planet that has the most words to describe emotional states. All right.
Okay.
And they have separate words for what they call black jealousy and white jealousy.
Very interesting.
White jealousy is the kind you feel when you're so happy for the other people, but you just don't know what's wrong with you and where is your pot of gold, right?
That is beautiful.
Yes, so that's white jealousy. Black jealousy is where you want to take what they have and kick them in the shin and run away and, you know, tell them to die and run straight away. You know, so...
Luckily, I feel very little of that these days. I feel pretty zen in that way. I really and I refuse to fall victim to a scarcity mindset. And so, you know, I work with a wonderful healing person. I won't go into detail, but sometimes I say, well, you know, there's only so many people who can afford to patronize what I do, right? So she's like, is that true? Well, yeah. I mean, you know, how much money can people spend in the arts? I still have to be at least as good as is that true? I don't know. So I've decided to not think about it like I understand with Vella, it's a big pie, right? We each get a slice, but that's a specific company. But in life as artists, I refuse to think there is a boundary. We just all need to create and share. Say that again?
I said the pool is infinite.
The pool is infinite. Right. We have like, no clue.
That's one thing about Wicca that I will say, if you ever study it, the true Wicca is that they teach abundance, that there's enough
like
for
that.
everybody.
Yep.
Okay. Go get yours and don't feel bad about it. Right.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And
then you're not scared to support your friend, and you're not scared to tout other writers or write reviews of them. And, I don't want to live in fear where I would have to be choosing me or them. I just don't want to live that way. So I won't,
Exactly.
Doesn't mean I don't have my moments of panic in the middle of the night about selling the matchsticks and living in the gutter and giving up retirement. But when it comes to art, I just want to support people. I want them to support me. I want us to be happy. Who doesn't?
And we will. And Vella is so in its infancy. We are more or less beta testers, my friend.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. This stuff is not even reached a year old yet. I understand from the people who've been on it since the beginning, that would be like July.
I think so.
Yeah. Yep. I think they started buzzing about this in like February of 21. Or maybe a little earlier. Oh no, it was earlier, because I did have an interviewee who said that, okay. So it was a little earlier, but anywho, I don't think nobody lit up until July.
Yeah, I think Amazon reached out and kind of, courted a few people earlier on, but that's probably how those people were getting in before, say, July.
Right.
I think I remember seeing some of the emails, but
so that's it for you. You've got 3 out there.
Yes, I'm going to start a new one soon. It's not through yet. I haven't done the first episode, but I have the photo and the art. It's going to be a YA thriller.
Oh,
I will let people know. I'm going to write this one specifically for Vella and try to use, shorter episodes and more hooks, and maybe there will be possibly an actual sex scene in one of my books, because I just don't usually write that. But we'll see. Teens have sex, and that's okay. And not all my YA has to be, I guess, for 13 and under. We'll see. Sure, I don't know.
I do have sex, but I will say this. Okay. I do draw the line. There's some whacked out stuff out there. And I know I brought this up before. Okay. So, the reverse harem trope is pretty big, right?
Uh-huh.
I found a YA reverse harem out on Vella, and the whole thing is like, they are kids in middle school, but they live in a dormitory where, yes, that would be very possible, but very disgusting. So
I will say, I'm sure I land on kind of the vanilla end of this, but I very much believe, like, you do you, everybody, whatever makes you happy, as long as it's respectful and legal. But many things are illegal that shouldn't be illegal, but in some states still. But I guess what I'm saying is, I won't write anything in which people are degraded or hurt, and I don't have any interest in reading it or experiencing it. My life arc is about not. Go ahead.
They could just be trying to use the shock factor to get people to open the cover.
Right.
I have run into several of those kind of Vellas where you think it's going to be one way, and you dig in there and it's quite another. And
I'm sure that's true too. I just know, however, I just don't want to see anyone exploited. And the only way I would write a scene in which somebody was exploited was if the tone of the book was, condemning of it in some way. Or like, I have some scenes in my other contemporary YA where the girl's just exploring what she wants and what she doesn't, and she's learning how to set boundaries. And to me, that's good for teens to read. You should do what you want to do, but only what you want to do, and not because someone else is
thought about it,
pushing you. Yeah, and not because of societal expectations or pressure from a partner. So, I care a lot that people come away with a positive message from what I write, even if sometimes the content is darker. So I don't know how that will go yet, but it's going to be at least a little more contemporary of a story. I think it's going to be called Lake and Vine, and I will certainly be advertising it all over when I get it done. But I'm going to I'm excited to try the Vella process, where I'm writing it as I go and sort of getting reaction and letting that feed into what I do.
So you haven't done that yet?
except no, because the other two were both written and I'm improving them as I go, but they were both written completed works, except for seriously good serials. I'm just drawing from my knowledge as an editor, but that's new.
That's cool. All of mine are in the Vella process. I currently write on all of them. So and
it's fun and interactive. So but it's riskier too, right? Because you're kind of flying without a net.
You sure are. Yep. You sure are. And but I like it. And I wish you every success with that one too. And
thank you
for it. Now it comes to the point in our meeting today when I ask you, what Vellas are you reading? And who would you like to shout out?
I would like to shout out a lot of people. I will say that mostly I'm reading the Vellas I'm trying to vet and write reviews for and showcase on the vetted Vella series. And I'm hoping that's enduring. And I'm hoping that someday it's a thing where people come there and know that, like, I'm like the Muppet judge in the corner, right? Who am I? But there's only one of me, but I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good one. But that takes a lot of work and time and effort. But so mostly I'm reading for that. But of course I read Nichelle's, everything she writes. I just rewatched your first interview with Hoyt. I read, I love Dark Family Secrets. I read Robert Grayson, The Wizard's Kin. I think that's amazing and lyrical. I wrote a list because I knew you'd ask and I got nervous. Oh, Collins McCrae, the Fox Argall series. I'm not even a huge fan of mystery detective stories. That series is so well written and the characters are really engaging.
Hoyt, Neely. Who is this last one?
Oh, Collins McCrae.
Okay.
The Fox Argall series. There's several books in that series. And now I think I might pick up Tess Combs' Slit Throat Saga because I just watched that interview and learned it was not a slasher. And I like the dystopian premise. So when I have time, who knows, I will be reading that.
Oh, wonderful.
And there are more, but my brain goes blank when I'm asked a specific question.
She is a wonderfully prolific young writer. And I was thinking about our interview yesterday, and what we're talking about now is we are talking about Tess Combs, who was interviewed for Hella Vella yesterday. That girl, she's like, well, and I made my living as a singer for a while, and then for a while I painted, and I think I was stupefied, It was just wonderful to hear her talk about her talents and just be so matter of fact, like everybody can go out and make their living as a singer. Yeah, sure.
Right. Sure. It did not work for me. Apparently you have to market yourself and not be super shy. Yeah.
Well, so good for her. There's that, but I still have hope for you, kid. I still have hope for you as a singer-songwriter. I have not closed the book on that one.
I still play out, just it's more for myself. And, so I divide my time lately as much as possible between here and Silver City, New Mexico, which is a town I found a couple of years ago, and I fell in love with it. And every time I go there, I start writing songs and picking up the guitar again. And there's something about that place that makes me feel really connected to that part of my art. So I have hope too.
If you came to me as like a spiritual counselor or whatever, and we talked about that, and I learned that, I would tell you that most likely it is because at one time you lived there as in another life. You lived there, you lived another life there, and it was a joyous one.
It may be. And there is something about the energy of being nestled in that Gila wilderness. And there's a gorgeous lotus center there and a few other meditative centers there. I feel like that energy just permeates the town. But I do believe in reincarnation, in fact. So anything goes. Who knows?
I'll go even farther and say it on here. And anybody who thinks I'm a nut, I know. Are you just now thinking that? Are you just now figuring that out? But I actually bring that out in one of my stories, what I believe to be true. And that is, we as human beings don't use much of our brain. 10% is really rocking the Casbah, right? What's the rest of that for? I think it is for storage for your Akashic record. I think that's where your Akashic record lives, and it comes with you every time when you get reincarnated and lives in your freaking head. And so then you have things that happen to people, like they get into an accident and bam, suddenly they can play the piano, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or speak Polish or some bullshit like that, right? I think it's because the Akashic Records container was damaged, and you're able to access another piece of another personality that you had. So that's what I think. That's how nutty I am. And
I love hearing that. And I don't think it's nutty. I'm really open to all sorts of ideas. I mean, I do believe in reincarnation. I don't have a memory of a past life. I can't prove it's true. My heart believes it. And I operate along those principles.
Right.
And what do I know? But I believe that we come here, no matter what religion you are, or if you're not, I think we can all kind of agree, like, let's learn while we're here. I mean, I think that's why we come here. But even if you are atheist, you could probably agree, like, yeah, let's experience a lot and learn a lot while I'm here, because this is all I got. So that's our common ground. And I just think I truly believe that I don't want to get to the end of this life and be like, oh, like, I see my life as a character in a story. I see the character arc, and I'm at the place where it's time for me to have agency and, jump off that cliff. And I don't want to get to the end and look back and be like, I didn't try, because it was easier to know that I could buy organic coffee when I had a better job. I mean, I don't want that to be my story. So I have to try. I have to be brave. And if there is another iteration, I'm going to be glad I did this, right? I'm going to have learned something. So
right.
I'm saying this like there's no going back, Kendra. You said this in public.
In my worldview, you're writing your page of your Akashic record.
Yes, I think we all are. And it's fascinating to me. Thank you for putting such a positive spin on that.
Yeah. Well, my pleasure. My pleasure. I really believe it. And I think that it's a very hopeful way to see the world, right?
Yes.
Because maybe you muffed it this time, but you'll get another chance.
There are times when I feel like, oh, I opened another door right into my face, and I'm walking around with a fat lip again, and things went wrong again, and it's another flipping lesson again. And I'm not always thrilled with that, because my life is kind of ridiculous and things go wrong for me a lot. Big things and little things, but I try to laugh, and it is, at least it's an experience. I would rather feel something than feel nothing. And I'm glad that I know that about myself. I mean, I have to remember that sometimes when the feeling I'm feeling is sucky. Yeah. I would rather feel something than nothing. Absolutely. I'd rather learn than not learn.
Absolutely. Most people would rather feel flat out pain than nothing.
I think we're more familiar with pain. I think it is more familiar to us, and we spend more time there and we become addicted to it. But I firmly believe that we can learn as much from joy as we can from pain. We just aren't good at it for some reason. We haven't practiced those muscles. And so we get stuck in the pain because we're like, oh, this is where I draw my art. But I know we can do it just as well from joy. We just have to find the muscles and practice it more.
Yeah,
that's what I believe.
That's true. And my poor husband, I told him I was having an interview and that I would unlock the door for him. I didn't.
Okay.
So I just had to use his key and unlock the door. I don't know what he's doing.
No worries. So a student will probably knock on my door. I'm in my office. So if that happens, It's all good.
Yeah. Tell him you're in here. You're in there smoking weed or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I should just lose my tenure, right? I should just clean the proverbial fish on the desk, in office space. Just go out.
Yeah. Throw down, Kendra.
Oh, why not? See if I can get a severance. No.
Now I got you. You're not getting out of this question either. And I know this this one's really going to stump you. If you were in charge of Vella, what, if anything, would you do to improve it?
Yeah, I want very much for there to be a more interactive experience for the reader. So when I started putting out Jase, Dauphin, I was a little earlier on for me, and I was writing things in my author notes let me know if you want him to do this in the next episode, or tell me, ask me questions about Sophie. And then I was realizing there's no way for them to ask me, and I was trying to direct them to my website. I was never going to work, but that's what we need. We need some interaction. And so right. I agree that the polls, I'm happy for them, but they are they're very limited.
Yeah,
if only, even in the polls, they could write fill-in questions. If we did one thing, if they could write fill-in questions and there was a portal by which I could get back to them even then I could shape a story, especially for kids. They could tell me what they want to see me write next. But overall, we need a better way for readers to connect with us, because we keep trying to attract them on Facebook, but we're not getting that much buy-in yet. And there just has to be some interface where it can be like they get to talk to us and we get to respond and they feel heard and we feel the energy. I think that's what's missing. I don't know how hard that is to implement, because like I said, zeros and ones and me are not friends, but that's what we need.
Yeah. And is
For sure.
Is that it?
Well, I have to say, I think Amazon is starting to advertise better. Sorry that it's getting dark in here. We're hitting sunset. I am sure there's more, but now that I'm in a camera, I can't think. Like if I were at home griping, I would come up with more. If I think of anything else, I will tell you. I don't have any great ideas about how to create that interaction, but that's what I crave.
Right. And you're going to get it. I have a feeling you're going to get it. And Alex Nader, he is writing a story using that as a way to drive the plot, which I think is really cool. I'm going to watch that with a lot of interest and be sure and put my 2 cents worth in and vote, how he wants readers to vote. I'm going to use that because I want to know how this works and it's going to work well for him. I
wanted to do something like that too, especially for kids. Yep.
Right. And I write a flow that is very, I've been told, appealing to the YA audience. And that's that heaven is high, pixel, hell is low.
Which I'm enjoying.
About Minecraft. Yep. So I'm thinking about trying to employ it somewhere there, because the whole flow is about a game, and games are all about logic choices. Games are all about, do you go this way or do you go that way? And the consequences are immediate usually in a game. So I'm going to try to use them, I think. And I know you're going to be able to put them to good use. I know you are. I have no doubt. They'll probably tweak those polling, that polling software and those polling fields. Mm-hmm. They'll probably tweak that for a while, because it's clear that's what they're trying to provide is a two-way communications channel. So it's in its infancy, and I have a feeling that they're going to get it to a point where you're going to really be able to that.
And as while you were saying that, I did think I understand why Amazon would not want us to be adding links and clicking off the platform. That makes total sense. Their business, they don't want people leaving, but there has to be some kind of internal, like whether it's connected with our author pages or whether there's some kind of internal Vella platform where we can all have a page, right? So that somebody could click on that story and they're not leaving Vella. So they're not losing customers, but they can interact with me and answer questions, or, and I can ask and answer questions. I don't care if it's contained within Vella. I will develop a separate one from my other author page, but there's got to be a way that can happen. I just don't know how complicated it is.
And it's not just
to have a chat or something.
Yeah. And it's not just for the readers either. An author that I interviewed this morning who lives on the island of Cyprus, by the way.
Oh, I know the one. I think I'm going to visit.
Yeah, but he was mentioning, how handy that would be for Vella writers like I am, who, if something happens to me, like when I got COVID, I couldn't write for 3 weeks, couldn't write anything for 3 weeks, and it would have been nice to be able to tell my readers that, I can't right now. I've not forgotten you guys, nor have I forgotten the stories, but I just can't. And that would be cool, because he said that he had literally seen writers getting 1-star reviews for not putting their episodes up on time.
Yeah, that's frustrating when customers don't really realize like what's beyond our control and what's not. Like, review the product, but don't review the platform or the interface. Not on my serial page.
There's that poor writer who, and she's a good writer too, but she got a 1-star review because they didn't know they had to use tokens.
Right. Yeah, I saw some of those.
She gets
some of the earlier writers got that. Yep. Yeah. You know, what else I was thinking is I've seen a lot of writers talking about wanting to be able to use art, and I get that. And so if they have that kind of inner portal, then they could put art up on that. And
Yeah, they
even
could.
if they can't put it in their episodes, they could kind of make a page where, hey, check out this scene. This is how I would depict it if I were drawing a scene from this book. And readers have to find our experience unique with us. So we need to make it unique. Go ahead.
I do have an affinity for ones and zeros. And I will tell you something that it's difficult for people to realize. And the only reason I know it is because my industry touched Amazon's industry. So what I did before I got retired, which was work in big data in high-end litigation cases as a third-party provider. So what I'm saying is Amazon software ain't all that, let me tell you. Okay. And I know people say, but they're so rich, they're so big. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And let me tell you something. They are so rich and they are so big, but they grew up organically. And they grew up organically during a time there was a lot of different software available. And I'll tell you right now that from having to go and collect data from them and to see their systems, okay, oh my God. Okay, because their business has gotten so much bigger than what the software can handle. So I want you to think of a giant, think of the biggest bag of crap that you can think of in a cartoon sort of way, right?
Okay.
Up at the top, and it's this huge bag, and it's riding on a Volkswagen.
Okay. Yeah.
Going
to I'm thinking of the Grinch. I'm thinking of all the toys the Grinch stole in that tiny little sled.
There you go. That is how overtaxed Amazon's current software is. And they cannot, and their software people tell them over and over, we can get it modernized and updated, and we can do it all at once, but we're going to have 48 hours. 48 hours of no Amazon. Could you even imagine? Okay.
Right. How much they will lose.
They work around it. They try to build the system up in one area, and then they port it over to another area that has already been updated. And then they build up another portion of it. And then they do that so that is how it is done. And it's too bad, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is. And I've seen it so many times in so many different businesses.
Wow.
And the ones that were able to gear up early and get tons of computers, right, and modernize and do that early, got really, really screwed when it came time to update, because so much changed. They literally changed the foundation out from under them. So
that's really fascinating. I'm picturing it like, a neighborhood or a city that just grew way beyond its capacity, and it's just piecemealing everything together, trying to figure out how to fix the road when there's no more room to fix the road. Or that's
think in terms of having to run through a maze just to get out the door and get in your car.
Right. Well, it seems like they're investing. I mean, it seems like they're investing in us. So I am optimistic.
They are. They're great. No shade on Amazon. It is just part of the way that everything evolved. It was just the evolution of technology and the evolution of retail technology, which, Jeff Bezos pioneered that, really. I mean, he went way beyond what anybody else thought could be done.
It's interesting to hear, though, just so that it helps me as an author not be frustrated sometimes. Like I can be fairly sympathetic and patient if I understand why. So that's helpful for me to hear, so that I'm not just crabbing.
Right. That's not helpful. I mean, we're piling more data on every day, and they demand, their servers demand it, and they want it, and they want us to do it. And they're working as hard as they can to try to give us a good experience. They want writers, and they want us to have a good experience. So I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm glad you are, because I'm just going to be so happy to watch your career and watch you grow and have you back on Vella. to do another interview in a year, because I want to hear how that year of being, you know, Kendra Griffin Incorporated went, you know?
Yeah.
And
I will let you know.
Great. I know it's going to be great.
Thank you so much for saying that. I need to hear that, but
it's going to be great.
Thank you so much for interviewing me.
You're welcome. And you are going to be great. You are great already. And what I want you to do now is think of what you would like to say to people who are going to be clicking on these links that I'm going to put in the video description. What would you like to say to your readers, my dear?
Wow. Oh, just thank you. Thank you for reading. I would write even if nobody read me, but it would not be the same. And I like to think that no matter what art we do, and it can be cooking, it can be writing, it can be how we carry ourselves in the world, can be an art. It's so energizing to have an audience and connect with them. And I want to know what they like and what they don't and what they want to see. I want them to meet my characters. And I guess most importantly, from a personal standpoint, every time they meet a character that reminds me of somebody I've lost or loved or both, I don't think anything could mean more to me. So thank you for reading, because it makes those people I care about come alive. So as dorky as that is, thank you. That's
wonderful. That'd make me click on it for sure. I'm definitely, there are things I will be looking at after today's talk that I haven't seen yet. So
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing these shows and supporting us all. You know, you deserve a really big shout out yourself. So well, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy this, and I get to meet all of you guys and get energized from just your stories, just you.
Yeah.
It does.
I was wondering what color your hair would be when you interviewed me, and it looks like an almost, human color today, but I think your hair is so fun. So it's good that I dyed my hair blue, because one of us can have wacky hair.
Yeah. Well, I have my regular hair under here, and my gray is getting so pronounced that I don't let everybody see it all the time, but it doesn't look terrible today.
It does not. It's beautiful.
I thought I would just put on a dark wig and do it that way, but you can see I have no ego about the hair, the look, none of it. I got zip.
I think it's great. And having no ego is also great. Good for you.
It helps.
It's the goal.
It helps.
It's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
The sun is
so many things in life easier if you can just remind yourself that it ain't about me.
Right.
So
it's so hard to remember that, right? It's about us and it's not about us. That's the weird thing.
That's correct. And it's almost like walking a tightrope, but once you get it down, it's nice. It's really nice. And it makes it possible for you to do things like I'm a writing partner with someone who's got a very strong personality. And I just immediately said, sure, I'll write, but I'm not gonna feel badly when I'm gonna make you the project manager. And and so that's worked out real well for us. And there have been a couple of times that she's been so apologetic about just maybe changing one sentence or whatever. And I'm like, kid, I told you, it's fine with me. You're the experienced writer here. You've got all these books published. I'm just happy to be having fun and writing with you and really enjoying it. So learning to put that ego, to smash it down, and believe me, it was learning. It doesn't come naturally.
It is a lifelong process for all of us. It is especially for artists. I mean, because we're sharing the inside of our brain, right? How could that not involve ego? And yet you kind of have to let go of it to genuinely connect with an audience, because it's about the audience and their experience too. So,
and the art is about the art. The art is about having its own life.
Yes. And knowing it's coming through you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here I am. I've kept her longer than I normally do. I've taken off my freaking wig. And now it is time to say bye-bye, you guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye all. Thank you.